having a mission of trying to get good at something, this kind of can change everything. Strength is a skill.
You know, you don't need to jump right into like the perfect thing right away.
In the gym, you know, variety can be a source of weakness.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. All right, so today I sit down with Jeff Sokol of Sokol Strong. Jeff is a StrongFirst Elite Instructor out of Seattle, Washington. And I've known of Jeff for a long time. He's been a huge content producer in kettlebells since back in 2009, 2010. So I was excited to chat with him really for the first time. The story that Jeff has about how he got into strength training from being in an incredibly dark place in his life is nothing short of inspirational. When you listen to it, it is a absolutely captivating story of how he did, where you realize that strength training and kettlebells absolutely saved his life. So it was incredible to talk to Jeff about his experiences, the work that he does in coaching, and we just had an absolute blast on the podcast here. So I know you'll get a lot out of this. All right, we'll get right with the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll check you on the inside. All right, let's do this. Jeff, it's an honor to meet you, man. As I was saying, I can't believe we haven't crossed paths over all these years.
I know, it's crazy. And the crazy thing is this community is so tight. And then with, you know, the social media and everything, I forget who I know just by social media and who I've met in person. It's really hard to keep track, which is actually pretty cool that, you know, we have such a strong community that everybody kind of knows each other. And then when you get to actually meet in person or face to face like we're doing right now, it's always a pleasure.
I know. Yeah. And you feel like you kind of know that person slightly, you know, there's a kinship.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
So it is. It's such a great thing about the community. And I know you've been in this world for a long time. As I said, I've known of your work for a while and, you know, kind of what brought you in. It's a really inspiring story of how you got into this world of strength. And then you're one of those guys that you put out so much content on this style of training early on.
Yeah.
And, and it's like before, like even it was a huge thing of like putting out so much content and you were just every day, I'm like, this guy keeps putting out more awesome stuff. And I saw the following that you built from it. And yeah, so it's really an honor to have you on and I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, it's an honor to be here. You know, I think in the beginning of it all, it was such an inspiring thing for me, you know, getting through that RKC and all that stuff that I wanted to share it with the world, you know, because I know there's a lot of folks like me out there that could use it. So yeah, I just jumped on and started sharing away, and before you know it, people were kind of digging it, and I think I've converted a fair amount of kettlebellers. It's pretty cool, you know.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, those old school RKC days when it first came in, it was like that weekend was a serious rite of passage. It's like, and it's different now. I mean, I've stayed with StrongFirst and the curriculum they have is phenomenal for teaching and instructing, but it was like, I remember those old days back in 2009, 2010 of that first day was like, you heard the timer go off, you ran to the bell and you like got 20 swings in. There was like almost like a military type feel of boot camp that we did for the day.
It was. And I think initially that's what brought me to it, you know. Going back, growing up in a little itty bitty town of 1,000 people, you kind of went two paths. You either played sports or you learned how to fix cars as a kid, sort of. Some did a little bit of both. And I grew up in just a small, like, double wide trailer in a little logging town. And my parents were more the type, let's get him playing sports so he's out and about instead of driving us crazy. I was kind of a handful when I was a kid. So I always had kind of a sports background. I loved football, baseball. I played basketball up until I was a freshman, and I stayed short and stocky and everybody got tall at that point. So I figured I'd give that up. I was a little Charles Barkley when I was in the 8th grade, though, getting rebounds and, you know, hitting an occasional jumper. But I, as far as thinking one day that if I was going to be a coach of anything, it would have been, you know, like a baseball coach or a football coach. I never, ever had considered the path of becoming a fitness trainer. I mean, the guys that helped us out were basically loggers that volunteered to teach us how to lift. I mean, you know, bless them for trying, but knowing what I know now, I probably developed a lot of bad habits back then. But yeah, so the path to the RKC was a long one. I did your typical gym rat stuff, squat, bench, dead, arms, legs, back, shoulders. So I did stay active in weightlifting, but I was never like into it, obviously, like I am now, right? But yeah, so I didn't get into this until in my mid 30s. And it just kind of stemmed from, well, a lot of things, but after high school, I went straight into the military, and it doesn't really matter what you do in the military. You instantly have like a brotherhood and a sisterhood and a team and something like that. So it was nice that because it kind of helped fill that void of being on a sports team or something like that. And I really enjoyed the camaraderie and the dedication and all that kind of stuff. And then when I got out, I just never found anything like that really again, and I just was working just manual labor, ditch digger jobs, things that paid the bills, but never really inspired me by any stretch of the imagination. There was nothing that I was really passionate about at that time. And I went from one job to another, and then I ended up at the town that my family moved to when I was a junior, like in high school, was 60 miles north of Seattle. And it's a bigger town than what I grew up in, but it's not necessarily a huge town. And when we got there, my life changed quite a bit also because I became a little more cultured, saw the world a little bit differently. Because where I grew up, in that little logging town, no fault of their own, but a lot of people never even went on a plane. They just lived that life, and that's fine. It was a great life. It was hardworking life, but it led me to a point of finding a job, and whether you liked it or not, you did it because there wasn't a lot out there growing up like that. So people, maybe not maybe. A lot of people just work to pay for stuff that they didn't need, or just simply to feed their families. So it wasn't a lot of passion involved, right? But then when I moved to that town, I saw there's a lot more out there than just logging and all these things. But as a youngster, I basically I got good enough grades to play sports. So,
gotcha.
I mean, really, if I would have put half the effort I put into sports and stuff in school, it would have been a whole different world. But so I knew that college, as fun as it would have been, I would have, kind of mastered in keg stands and girl chasing. Right. So anyways, back to did the military thing, got out working odd jobs. And then I found this job, and this is going back to that Mount Vernon town where I was working for the Department of Transportation, which is a good job for the right person because you got the benefits, you got the vacation, they got the 401k, all these types of things. But that was kind of what started to really fester some of the depression and anxiety things that I had, because I was working, to me, with my first union job, and people seemed to, not everybody, but, worked. So I don't want to dog on these people, but
you're right.
Worked harder not to work than to work.
Right.
And right. And, like I said, for the right person, that was great. But for someone with my personality, it was either, if I'm going to do this for a career and retire from this job, either I become one of them or I leave. And at the time, I kind of became one of them. I started eating the 2 donuts at the safety meeting every morning. Instead of fighting it, I was like, okay, let's drive around for 2 hours. Then we'll go to Jack in the Box, and then we'll drive around for 3 hours. Right. And then we'll fix something, and then we'll drive around until the day's over. Right.
It's a whole, just figure out how to fuck around as much as possible.
Yes. Right. And, so during that phase, it didn't take long. I'm not a physical specimen that's meant to be in shape. I grew up, my grandparents in that little town ran a home style bakery. So my breakfast in the morning was fresh maple bars, right? So I've been battling the bulge forever. And, you know, when I started that job at the DOT, I was probably, you know, decently healthy, 185, 190 pounds. And within a few years, I was up to 240.
Wow.
Yeah. Wearing like size 36 pants. And just as I got heavier, I stopped working out. And then all my little demons that I had kind of put at bay here and there started to burst out. And, you know, they're just waking up and going to some place that you hated, and you really felt that you weren't serving the public as you should. And it just kind of wore on me. And it was also during the whole housing crash and all that stuff that was going on at the time. And and then I was going through a divorce and losing my house and just feeling like I was just worthless. Right. And we all have our problems and we all deal with them different, and we all have different life experiences. And mine's, you know, not much different than anybody else's, but for whatever reason, it really drove me to a dark place, like dark. And, you know, I ended up being in the house by myself. I knew that, you know, I couldn't pay the mortgage by myself. And I was one of those idiots that was, well, not an idiot. I mean, maybe it was a good thing, but I was like, I have a commitment. I have to pay this. So I started paying mortgage with a credit card, you know, I mean, just compounding this situation. Right. And then I started drinking a lot. And then I had a goal of just, you know, whacking myself, honestly. You know, I was like, you know, screw this and going to take the easy way out. And then I had a night where that was the plan. And it sounds silly right now, but I had a fifth of whiskey and a package of saltine crackers. And the saltine crackers, for every time I took a shot, I wouldn't throw it up after a while, you know, because I wasn't eating much at that time either. You know, I was just going through all that. And then, you know, I had my little Sig Sauer 40 sitting there, and, you know, and I was going to do it. But I didn't, you know, I mean, I passed out, I think, before it happened, but sometime, and I like to think it was that night, but it's so hard to say, you know, but I had ordered this infomercial. It was called Kettleworks. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but
absolutely.
Like this Canadian trainer to the stars guy or whatever.
Absolutely. Right? Oh yeah. I remember those infomercials. Yeah.
Yes. Right. So, I mean, I didn't know jack all about kettlebells yet. Right. But in any case, whether it was from someone above or not, or it ended up on my doorstep, and there was 3 little workout videos. I think it was like a 5-pound, maybe a 10-pound and a 25-pound, you know, blue coated kettlebells. And there was like a kettlebell core class or something, like a kettlebell burn and like a kettlebell strong. Right. So those sat in a box for a while. And then one day I threw one in and started doing some gunslingers and some
yes, the gunslinger. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I think I might have been the first kettlebell flow hard style guy, to be honest, because I was flowing in my living room with all these things, right? And and you know, I mean, a 20-pound kettlebell was just destroying me, you know. I was like, what in the hell? But the cool thing is as I started playing with these things, it was I think they were either 20-minute or 30-minute videos. It was 30 minutes of just stepping outside of this thing I've created in my head of not being able to get out of my situation. Right. You know, so I started playing with those a bit. And then this guy that got me the DOT job, he was a guy who graduated from high school, and we went into the military at the same time. And in one of our drive arounds, burning diesel, I said, hey man, we should, cause we did some gym rat together, me and this Clint guy, great guy. And I said, hey, let's stop by my house real quick. We'll do a kettlebell burn workout. He's just like, what? We did it, and he got sweating as well as I did. And then I think it was like 2 days later or something. He goes, bro, I kind of get it, but I feel like we should have Susan Summers up the butt tights when we're doing this. It doesn't feel very like masculine, right? And so at the time I wasn't really on the internet much, right? So I didn't do a lot of research, and he had found Pavel, and and he sent me a link to Pavel's Enter the Kettlebell, and it was like these big kettlebells, and they were iron and not rubber coated, and it was militant, like you said, right? And I was like, whoa, this could be something that I could get around. So we split the cost of that and 2 24 kg bells, because Pavel said that well, at the time, whatever, if you're a decent man, you just 24. So we're like, we're decent men, veterans, tough, and then talk about getting destroyed. We literally got destroyed with those, and then and that just started to kickstart things. Once I got that Enter the Kettlebell, and that probably would have been maybe 2009ish or something that I got that. And then through this process of playing with all this stuff, I got back into martial arts, just how that exercise and how that having a mission of trying to get good at something, this kind of can change everything, right? Everything. And then next thing you know, I'm getting a little fitter, my confidence is getting up, and I'm like, I can get through this stuff. I mean, you're tougher than this, Jeff, just nut up, man, get going. And that led me to eventually going and seeking out Andrea Chang, because I was like, I understood being an athlete and stuff, that skill is hugely important. And I was pretty damn sure that I wasn't doing it very well. Right. So I got a hold of her, and I was living in Mount Vernon at the time, which was, 60 miles north of Seattle. And I drove down there, found out it was like $100 a session. And I was like, holy moly. And then I had my first professional coaching with weights, right? We were going to like the 24-hour fitness or an equivalent of, and, great, great place for people to get some sweat on and stuff, but it didn't inspire me to be a coach being in there, but when I met Andrea and I saw what coaching fitness can be, I was like, this is pretty cool, right? I mean, I could see myself doing something like this. And I went down and I did the HKC, and I met Zar Horton, Doug Neupert, just a bunch of just solid men, right? And I was like, okay. I remember at the time that I did my HKC, I think I got down to like 220 or 230, still pretty out of shape. And I saw Zar and his forearms, and I was like, man, that's I want to
the aesthetic role model of the world, Zar Horton.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, I want to do that. I want to be that guy. And then, I did that cert. And the funny thing is my buddy and I, we did it together. And after the cert, they called you all in the room and gave you a little talk. And they were like, to my friend Clint, which was ex-Marine, looked like a czar, and they were like, hey man, you could really probably get into this if you thought about coaching. And I kind of got the, good job, chubby, keep it up. But my buddy Clint, he wasn't going to coach. And, and I, at the time I wasn't either, but I'm rambling here, so cut me off at any time.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah.
But, so Clint, was also doing, this Kajukenbo, which is a really cool mixed martial art pretty much. And so I got into that with him, and I'd done martial arts off and on, for a long time. But, so now I'm doing, trying to figure out how to get good at the HKC stuff, taking martial arts, getting back in shape, still hating the job. I mean, horribly.
Right.
But
you had an outlet now.
I had an outlet, man.
Yeah.
And I had a mission because, shortly after getting into the martial arts and stuff, and then Andrea, training with her a few times, she started to see my commitment and was like, you should really consider signing up for this RKC thing. Mm-hmm. And at the time, maybe I could do, I don't know, 30, 24 kg snatches in 5 minutes. Right. I'm like, wow,
yep.
This is going to be a challenge.
How do I bridge that gap to get to
that's right. How do I bridge that gap? And then, so our martial arts instructor, great guy, rest in peace. He let us bring some kettlebells into the martial arts studio, and any good martial artist that sees someone moving with a kettlebell has got to be like, oh, this is going to help me be a better martial artist. Right. So the next thing we're doing swings and get ups, goblet squats, the basics. And, students in the martial art club was like, hey man, would you teach me a little bit of that? And next thing you know, I'm just not wanting to be a coach or not thinking I'm a coach. I'm coaching it. And then after about 6 months of that, our martial arts instructor came down with leukemia, and he had happened to be training this kind of one of those new age preachers, the tattoos, the Harley, kickboxing, just a real badass. And he'd offered the church gym to us. So Marlo, our instructor, wouldn't have to pay rent anymore for his studio. And he said, hey man, move your ring in here. He had like a Hoosier style old church gym, like exactly Hoosier style.
Wow. Okay. Yep.
And he's like, hey man, just as long as you guys give back to the church, because I don't care if you go to the church, I don't give anything like that, but we'll let you move in here, figure out a way to give back to the flock or whatever. Mm-hmm. So we moved in there, and Clint and I decided, hey man, let's before work, let's go in there and donation only. Let's do a class, like a circuit class with kettlebells. So both of us started teaching that. And then before you know it, we were getting a ton of people in there. And then Clint just kind of stood back and he said, you take it, Jeff. And then one day he's like, bro, this is what you got to do. He's like, you are happy as all happy can be when you're doing this. It just comes natural to you. And, I can see just your passion and your love for it. So you got to do this. And then, I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And still doing the job I hated for a while. And then, like I said, losing the house, going through divorce. So at that point, it was like, what do I got to lose? I was like, let's just do it. And trained up for that RKC, and I had mine in La Jolla, and Pavel was the lead, Dan John. Dude, like star-studded list. And at that point, to me, it was like stars, it was like, holy shit.
Oh yeah, Pavel. It was like celebrities.
Yeah, I was like, that's Brett Jones, that's Dan John, that's the Sniven brothers, I mean, all that, right? And like you said, the RKC, it was militant, right? So I was like, now I have my unit,
that tribe,
I have my tribe, and we have to make it through this crucible to become one of this system, right? And I was like, man, this is great. And I know everybody says it doesn't matter if it was a course you had in the service or any, it's always like, oh yeah, ours was way harder than yours, but I mean, it was legit hard, dude. It was legit hard. We had all of our bells were in this little storage thing, and we had to go about 50 yards to get to the main field. And at that point, it doesn't matter what size you were, it was 24s, right? And I had gotten from 240 when I left the RKC weekend. I lost a lot of weight that weekend, but I got home and weighed myself, and I was 167 pounds.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Just shredded, but, so it was quite a transition. Right. And then yeah, that weekend, yeah, I mean, even when you went to the bathroom, the bathroom was way back. You had to carry your kettlebells, and at one point, every time a plane flew over, we had to do 10 slings.
Yep.
I mean, it was brutal, and I barely made it, man. I was like that guy at the snatch test where everybody was screaming to get my last 10, right?
Yep.
And just barely got it, and then
because they used to do it first, right? That was the first thing you did when you went to those certs back then, right?
Actually, I was one of the first classes where they made you do it on the last day because people were kind of ripping their hands or something early in that snatch test. And then if they got the snatch test, that was their biggest worry. They kind of checked out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're like, hey, I got the snatch test. I got everything else dialed. Right. So I think that was a good call.
That happened in mine because one of the guys that was in my group when I went to the RKC, it was one of the last ones, I think, that they did it first. And a guy on the 98th rep, I think he had a previous condition with his shoulder, but didn't say anything about it and just went into the rep, and then his shoulder just gave out and he was done for the weekend. I think it was kind of at that point, if they were already questioning, should we change this? That was one of those things that was like, before we start doing this and getting these people crushing out a 5-minute test, maybe we should work on their technique first.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that it was awesome getting into it in that era. Right. But I think they realized pretty quick that business model wasn't going to last forever. Because even before we did it, it was more of like, can you survive the weekend with kettlebells? Right. So they're like, hey, we need to turn this into a coaching cert and, make it more about coaching than destroying people. And still to this day, you have to work hard to get it. It's not a give me by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely morphed into a high quality coaches cert, but the funny thing is Max Shank, you know of Max?
Oh yeah. I've talked to Max before. Max is great.
Yeah. He was my team leader. Right.
Okay. Yeah. And, good TL right there. Yeah. Strong.
Just solid. And you like hit him on the shoulder and just
it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. But, remember how we used to train the victims, right? So they bring in somebody from the community and they had to sign a waiver. So, yeah, I was like, okay. I showed up and I had this nice fitness collared shirt on and some nice shorts. And I'm like, I'm really going to professional this shit. And because I get pumped, dude. When I get into it, I get pumped. So I get teamed up with an active duty Army Ranger, just hard charging, hardcore dude. And I'm supposed to teach him the swing or something, right? And within 3 minutes, he rips off his shirt. And I'm like, I ripped off my shirt and we're going at it just like two soldiers would, right?
Oh my God, that's so great.
Oh yeah, just crazy, And then after that, Max is like, it's like, I don't know if I can pass you, bro. I mean, would you act like that with a grandma? And I'm like, absolutely not, dude. I mean, I knew him because I came from where he came from, and I met him where he was at. And was he not swinging by the end of this? Yes or no? So luckily I left that weekend certed, and then, once I got certed, I'm still doing that job, talking to Andrea, and she said, once you get certed, I'll find an opportunity for you down here at the gym if that's something you want to do, right? Again, 60 miles away from my house, right? And so I started driving down there and just kind of mentoring under her. And then one of the things that DOT job, there was this guy in charge of me, and I hate to say it, but if I saw that guy on the side of the road needing assistance, I probably wouldn't give him CPR. I mean, it's just the disdain that I had for that person, and he knew he could get away with it, so he's always trying to bully me and all that stuff. But one day he did his thing, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna break you if you don't remove yourself from here. And some other guy grabbed him, and I just went over to the superintendent's office, and I was like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. And I was losing my house anyways. And I was going to, so I was like, what, screw it. And then So started driving to Seattle every day and, just figuring it out, eating top ramen and whatever. Mm-hmm. And then Andrea gave me this, at the time, I think she was 68 or 70. It was my very first client, this amazing woman called Marjana King. And she had this goal. Her son was a filmmaker, and he was shooting a documentary in Morocco. And she had like 3 years before she went to visit him there when the project was done. And her only goal was, I want to go there and I don't want anybody to carry my bags. I don't want the tour guides to be waiting for me and all that stuff. And she was pretty deconditioned. And, we started having a kettlebell on yoga blocks, deadlifting, 10 kg kettlebell and get ups to the elbow, and then 2 years later or 3 years later, she was doing 5x5 with the beast off the ground and doing full get ups. Right. So as I was driving back and forth, she was like, hey, check it out, man. I live in Edmonds, which is a lot closer to Seattle. I have an apartment downstairs in my house. I want you to just stay there for free until you build enough clients. Right. So next thing you know, I cut my commute down 3/4, doing my thing and started building clients and, got to a point where I got my own place and then, I've just been grinding ever since.
Oh my God, dude, that's such an incredible story in there.
Yeah.
It's like,
it was definitely meant to be, I think.
Well, it's amazing. Like, I mean, going back the Kettleworks program there, it's like, if you go back and you remember those infomercials, if you're in this world, you probably poke as much fun as possible. And rightfully so in many ways.
Yeah.
But it was something that, it seemed that you had with you and were looking for anything in the darkest of dark moments that build some momentum and getting going. And I think that's such an important lesson of, you don't need to jump right into like the perfect thing right away. Just building a little bit of that momentum, doing the Gunslinger movements and stuff, which are so it's a hokey thing in many ways when you look at it in the logistical side, but in the same breath though, exactly what you needed to do to just feel something with it, right? I just had Jeff Neupert on the other day, and he had the perfect line of competence breeds confidence, of like just doing something and just doing it on a consistent flow, regardless of what it is. Just when you're at that deconditioned feeling, when you get that blood flow going, you just feel a little bit better. Just that little bit of confidence can essentially change your entire life, which is exactly what it seems like it happened to you.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's why, it's easy to poke fun at people just getting started or people doing things that, like that Kettleworks. But it is a kickstart, like you say, and when people ask me about getting back into fitness or just starting, they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, you got 30 days? And they're like, well, sure. I'm like, well, just start walking 30 minutes a day for 30 days. That's it. Even if it's just setting a timer for 15 minutes, leaving your house, when the 15-minute goes off, turn your ass around and come home. And then just that alone, as simple as just committing rain, snow, or shine to walking. The next thing you know, you're not setting your timer anymore. The next thing you know, you're walking by a gym every day on your path. And then you step into the gym and then you start on the next journey. Right. So it's just whatever kicks it off. And that's what I love about StrongFirst for somebody that's got the squirrel brain or somebody that's, battling demons or whatever the case may be. It's a beautiful way to get strong and find a flow state at the same time, right? I mean, when you get into that mindset of strength is a skill and, I know it's cheesy, but I still don't work out, I just practice all the time. And, and through all of that practice, going on 49 in June, I'm arguably the strongest I've ever been in my life. And, I still, have a lot of ups and downs as far as the head goes. Right. But it only takes another session to get back, back out of that versus 6 months of like,
you know. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it is such an easier way to get into flow? I have an idea of it myself and I've seen that, but it is still something that is always an interesting question of, do you think it's the skill development of it, or is it?
I think it's a lot of it. I think that's a lot of it. And I think it's just the environment in most kettlebell gyms, right? There's not CNN playing on the TV up in the corner. There's not a lot of, the guy that comes to the gym just to hit on chicks. And there's not a lot of the, the gals that come in there just to try and look good. I mean, everybody is in there to work. Right. And there's not a lot of distractions. Right. So when you're in a 30-minute, 40-minute, 50-minute kettlebell session, your brain is not, at least mine, isn't thinking about taxes and death and the current state of the world. It's like, it's just me and the kettlebell. It's like, how am I going to get this next clean smoother than that one I just did before it? You know?
For the longest time, I would always look at it on the physical side of like 15 minutes, you can get a full body workout in. And I mean, that's physically that is the case, but I think the more that I've seen it, the more it is that just focusing and not having a million different distractions while you're doing so. Cause we can be distracted and bored and we never have to be bored ever again. We can always have something that entertains us during the time. But when you're really into a session of building that skill up, it's like, even if you do have distractions, you don't even want them. You kind of block them out because you're so engaged in what you're doing. And I think the mental focus side of it is what brings people back. I think even more so than the physical results is just you feel. And then when you talk to somebody who has experienced it or gone through, I thought of that before with the RKC. It's like, it's kind of like a time you're going through something with somebody else. It's like you have a common bond that you build where your hamstrings are on fire by the end of the day and everybody's got a hole in their hand because their hands have torn. It's like, oh, cool. It's like you went through something together. That's why this community, I think, is built so strong.
Oh yeah. I mean, I believe that it, if you're a StrongFirst instructor, you could go anywhere in the world and have a couch to sleep on. It's just, I know if a StrongFirst instructor comes to town and they need a place to sleep, I got a place. It's just, it's like I said, it's a lot like the military stuff or a lot like a football team or something like that. They've all gone through the same struggle. So you're instantly bonded. It's not like, taking a book test or, you have to earn it. Right. Through dedication and through mastering your craft. And and we all need that. Right. I mean, I have a client right now that, he's a very successful guy, graduated from Harvard, and all that. And he's retired and he wasn't working on anything. And, he got a pistol and he's starting to shoot. And he's like, it reinvigorated because he's learning something that he's not good at. As a matter of fact, he was anti-gun before he got it because his son got one and now he loves it, and it's strictly because his brain is focused on trying to learn something instead of just going through that rut of just every day, just doing what you do, it's
when you feel progress in something like that's, it's like, wow, I can make progress. I can build skills on this. So when you were in the timeline there, Jeff, I mean, from the time when it was obviously a dark night, when you had these plans and then luckily passed out afterwards, didn't go through. And then you got into, was like the next day that you got into the kettlebell work, or was this a little bit of time down the line?
No, it was a little bit down the line. And then my memory is shit, even just as it is. I mean, I started playing tackle football when I was 9 years old and started getting concussions at 9 years old, because I was never ever the biggest, but I was most definitely the most aggressive, like always, like that didn't matter. And I was taught that if you hit people harder than they hit you, you'll never get hurt, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, I have some screws loose, but anyways, so I had this stuff in a box even for a while before I opened it, quickly after I broke that seal on that thing, the mindset started to change,
Yeah.
and that was the thing with like that Kettleworks. I was never intrigued by that enough to get good at it. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it was just like exercise. Right. I mean, and that's, a lot of places people just go to the gym just to strictly exercise, and that's fine. They don't give a shit if they're good at it. They just want to go and move, and that's great. But if I was still doing just the Kettleworks and just kind of going through the motions, I don't know how much would have changed. Right. I think it's when because there was never a mission with that, right? I wasn't going to be a Kettleworks instructor, I mean,
right. Yeah. Well, it's just doing something to make you feel better, right? It's like you're getting out of the traditional pain. It's, when I talked with Dr. Lisa Lewis a little while ago, she has a program called Psych Skills for Fit Pros. So she teaches the coaches in her course of the psychological side of training and working with clients. And the term she used,
that's so huge.
It's huge. And the term she used was leveraging motivation. And we talked about motivation. And so many people think like, if you're not like the guy on Instagram that is just so motivated and getting up because he doesn't feel it, it's like, forget willpower. It's like, it's just a lifestyle and it's in your mind. And if you're not so gung ho on that, people think like they're not motivated. It's like, it's not a big enough dream for it, when it's like, no, like maybe you just need to get going and just move it. And like you said, just going for a walk outside. Like I started walking a couple years ago and just because I was either training, it's a lot of times when you're training, you're just standing still. You're not doing anything. You think you're active, but you're not. It's like, shit, I'm like doing like 3,000 steps a day. It's like, all right, start getting 8,000 steps a day and going for some walk. Holy shit, I feel like way better from that. But by just going out for a walk and just taking a couple breaths of fresh air.
We're meant to be outside, I mean, and that's, I think, one of the big problems with, there's massive problems in society today, but, I think one of them is just that losing touch with nature, pre-COVID, I set out on this mission to get 52 hikes in 52 weeks, and I ended up with 47. And
that's
as a whole, that year, I don't think I've ever felt so just connected. Just that time in nature. And then COVID hit, and I went and did a hike, and somebody, at the top of a mountain told me to put my mask on, and it ruined it. I was just like, I was like, what, and then, that, which is a terrible excuse. But I haven't really hiked since, and that's a missing piece. I got to get back in there. Right. But I let my fear of throwing someone off a mountain keep me from doing it,
Well, it is, it's that connection. There's that connection to the earth of it. I just heard Sadhguru said talking about this, of like, the soil that we have. And, especially if you live in urban environments and stuff too, you're living 10 floors up. You think you're standing on the ground. You're not. You're way above the earth. Like there's a disconnect going on there. And that's why one of my favorite things from the RKC, when you mentioned you had to bring your kettlebell everywhere on that first day, which was hysterical. There was a Southern guy who was in our group. It was like 70 people there. It's a big cert. And we were on the way back the first day, and everybody's exhausted. I don't know how many we did. And everybody's just kind of sitting there just with their head to the side. And this guy with the deepest like Arkansas type accent was just cracking us up, because he's like, you had to bring that bell everywhere. I didn't pee all day. Like we had a 5-minute, we had a 5-minute break, and we had 1 minute rest, and we had to be back a minute. He's like, I just peed for like 30 minutes after. And he just had our entire place just cracking up. And it was like,
I love it.
And it like brought everybody together, because everybody was so serious afterwards, and we all just kind of let that sigh down. It was hysterical. There were so many things there, but it was, what we did is they brought us outside. Like we were doing, it was April in Minnesota when I was doing, it's 40 degrees outside. We're snatching bells overhead, but you're feeling the ground. And like that's something that's so cool about, training, especially with bells too, is you can take them outside. You can get outside in the sun, and there's not I'm sure there's some scientific stuff behind it, but the the feeling that you get from finishing a training workout, being in the sun or getting your feet dirty in the sand or in the grass, like there's something that it's not easy to express. It's different than being in the walls of a gym and go to the gym. I mean, that's great, but getting in a hike or just taking your bell outside and just going and playing around with it. There's something that is so deeply ingrained in us as humans to do that, to test ourselves with our body. And it's just something that I think everybody should just apply.
Yeah. I have a friend that starts every day by taking off his shoes and just walking in the grass in the morning to get grounded, and it does a lot for him. It's great. And again, like you say, that's another beauty thing of the kettlebell. It's, I could get somebody pretty damn strong with just a 16 kg, just using tension and doing all the things. And, it's not hard to take a 16 kg with you, just get it out on the beach. And when I used to work at Kettlebell, we were real close to this Green Lake, it was called. And that's back when I was crawling a lot and doing a lot of that stuff. And,
okay. Yep.
Yeah. And I'd freaking damn near crawl a 3-mile loop around this thing. I was crazy, but yeah, I would take my kettlebell there and just talk about a flow state, when you're looking at the lake and your feet are on the earth and, there's healthy people walking around all over and it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, Jeff, as I mentioned, like you were one of the first guys that I saw a while ago that was putting out just massive amounts of content on kettlebell work. And I built a big following from there and building it up. Was that something that you committed to do? Just like, I want to put as much out as possible? Or is it just, you felt like you had a lot to share and you just kept throwing stuff out?
Well, I was talked into getting Instagram, I really didn't want anything to do with it, but, I can't remember who it was, but they're like, yeah, man, you need to get out there, business wise anyways. Right. And then, I just started sharing stuff and then I'd get a message and be like, holy shit, I've never thought of that, or I've never thought of that. And at the time, cause it was kind of early, there was people in like leadership and stuff that were getting frustrated by it. Right. Because, giving tips and stuff that they should have gotten. Yeah. And I'm like, that's ass backwards, I can't tell you how many people just by sharing stuff asked me, where'd you learn that? How'd you, that went and got certed. It's countless. I can't even quantify it, over the last 12 years or whatever, how many people have made that thing. And like I said, it was just getting that feedback that like, hey man, this is really helpful. This really helped my workout. I appreciate you sharing that stuff. And it's easy, I don't waste a lot of time with it. I just set up a camera real quick and record a set or just do a quick little cueing thing. And so it wasn't hard,
Right.
It's just super simple. And then I think being just a salt of the earth, small town guy, I kind of speak the language to people that's understandable. I don't try and get too technical. I just try and keep cues simple and easy and understandable. And, I try and share things that were doable, like nice, simple little workouts, just combining swings and get ups and cleans and presses and, just trying to let people know that it's really accessible. Cause it was really frustrating in the beginning because when people started doing kettlebells and, they'd hurt themselves or something and they blame the kettlebell and then they go tell 10 people the kettlebell hurt me. And it's like, well, no, that didn't. That stupid coach that put it in your hand that didn't teach you hurt you or you, not taking the time to try and do it right. So part of it was also just, trying to give kettlebells a good name. Right.
And that's how it came off. It always came off so authentic with it. And it was kind of before a time where Instagram and like Facebook, I guess, were what they are now. It's like now everybody shares a lot more. Information is something that we gather, but I was at a place that was the same thing, almost like very tight-lipped about all the information that they had. And the same thing in my head, I'm like, well, why? It's like, if you give it out there and you give the taste of it, it's like, well, if people are really interested and they're doing well with it, like, I was just like, well, the more people who are doing good stuff by consuming your stuff, isn't that just a net positive down the line?
Yeah,
It's almost,
exactly.
it like didn't make sense to me of that. And it seems like it kind of was a similar thing to you. And I saw the work that you were doing of, it was just a simple message every day. Sometimes it was just workouts. Like it was not a million different, crazy, sexy things you were trying to change all the time. It was like, no, here's the get up of the day. And it was like, okay, cool. Like this is how you progress in it.
Yeah. And again, maybe it's just my makeup, but I like to keep things simple, man. Like yesterday's workout was 5 and 5 snatches and 3 and 3 thrusters for 10 rounds. I mean, you got that full strength, mobility, stability work of the get up, and then you got the squat with the push, I mean, simple.
That's all you need.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't, my phone just chirped at me. Yeah. I don't like to overcomplicate things, and again, and luckily for me, I don't get bored with doing the same stuff. Right. And I understand that, that variety is important to people, but in the gym, variety can be a source of weakness. It's like never taking the time to get good at any one thing, just constantly trying to change things up constantly, which is, you have to, you have to change things a certain way. But I mean, if you have an implement you like and you're getting a push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry, and a get up with it, you're covered, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, if you want to run marathons and stuff, obviously you're going to have to do some extra conditioning and all that stuff. But just for a guy that just wants to wake up and kick life in the dick every day, it doesn't take a lot, exactly. And I don't work out more than 3 times a week, for the last 12 years. The thing is though, is I've averaged 3 times a week over the last 12 years. I mean, consistency, man, it's like, people are like, how'd you get a 72 kg get up? I'm like, well, I did 16 kgs until they were easy. And then I did 20 kgs until they were easy. And I just climbed that ladder, I mean, right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's the art of the practice, right? It's like, I remember last year I worked so much with Brett Jones with Iron Cardio work. And it was that aspect of you're doing the same thing every day without doing the same thing every day. And it was just that art of play that you're getting into. And if you adopt that, then you can still have a structured plan, but then that once in a while of just going out and just practicing some new shit, just playing around with some different protocols. And sometimes things just hit you and it's like, oh, that's a great one. Sometimes it's like, well, that was all right, but you're still moving the needle forward. And that's what we're all trying to do. So,
and then programming wise, when I have a specific goal, I have someone else write it for me. Because they'll make me do things I may not want to do. Right.
Yes. You can second guess yourself a lot easier.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, I'll do every now and again, I'll break out like an 8-week to 12-week strong list 5x5. I'll use kettlebells for mobility pieces and stuff. And then I'll go back and I'll hit simple and sinister for a few weeks. And then I'll go back and then I'll do some kind of combination with like one major strong lift with kettlebell work. I just kind of cycle through those, and that seems to keep me pretty fit and happy. I stay relatively explosive and mobile and agile with kettlebells. And then, I build my strength base with, squat, bench, and deadlift and military press with a bar. I never really got into the Olympic lifting with bars because my double snatches and things like that to me kind of cover that. And for my body type and better. And, if I would have got into that, if I would have found CrossFit before I found StrongFirst, I may not be feeling as good as I am today, but I probably would have been competing at regionals or something, because I would have got so into it, and that's just it. I mean, I've been doing this forever and I still love doing it. I love doing it. It's more than, it's not just a habit. I still love it. I still come to coach and I always have a good time. And, even on my worst day, after you get that first session in and you're like, oh man, yeah, this is what it's about,
I love it, man. Dude, this has been awesome. No, I really appreciate the time. It's been a blast connecting with you, Jeff. Your story is so inspiring, and I'm so happy I got to hear it. And I know it's such a huge inspiration for so many people out there. And dude, you're just the energy that you put into coaching and what you put out there is infectious. And so keep doing you, man. It's freaking awesome.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, man, and same goes for you, brother. Keep spreading the love.
Yeah, man. So if people don't follow you already, they want to check you out, what's the best place that they can go and see your content?
Well, mostly on Instagram, I do have a Sokol Strong Facebook page. I really don't go there often. I just kind of share from when I share on Instagram, it goes there. Mm-hmm. And then I recently got picked up by Amazon Halo, which is like a Fitbit thing, but they have an app. And if you get the premium subscription, you have access to trainers. And I brought kettlebells in there for my audition, and they're like, wow, we were all scared of kettlebells until now. So I just got done filming a Kettlebells 101, like 3 videos with a 4th video practice session. They're all about 20 minutes. So 4 videos on learning how to swing. And then there was like 3 videos I just got done filming, learning to get up. And then I just got done filming 8, like 20-minute quick kettlebell burn sessions. And so it's not on the app yet, but it will be soon. So, people can work out with me on that Amazon Halo if they feel so inclined here in the near future.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, it is pretty fun. I would have never thought it. When I got a call from them to come down and audition, Jeff Sokol and Amazon I ever thought would be in the same sentence, but they're allowing me to be authentic and teach what I love. Because at first they wanted me to do dumbbell workouts and all that, which is great, but they let me bring the kettlebell. So I'm really honored to bring kettlebells to that that venue. So that's awesome. Man, Instagram and that. And then of course I got, my Sokol Strong website. And then I have that Sokol Strong TV, which has the Kettlebell 101 on there as well. And then a Kettlebell Foundations thing, which are, professionally filmed instructional videos, which I've got a lot of good feedback on. So yeah, man, that's about it, brother.
Perfect, man. Awesome. Well, dude, really appreciate it. This was a blast. Really love connecting with you, man.
All right, let's do it again.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Listeners, thank you so much for connecting. If you want to follow Jeff and grab his content, you know where to do so. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like the show, please give it a 5-star review, give it a thumbs up, all that good stuff. And if you want to get the inside scoop on all new episodes coming up, behind the scenes insights and free training resources, then you can join the Strength Connection private Facebook group now. Just go to Facebook groups, type in the Strength Connection and join in. Also, don't forget to subscribe. See you soon.